All right, we just told you the president has pardoned his son, Hunter Biden, sparing him from a possible prison sentence for federal felony gun and tax convictions. Now, the move comes after the president and the White House repeatedly, time after time, said President Biden would not pardon his son. The president himself said that to reporters. We're expecting to hear from the White House press secretary at any moment. She's actually on Air Force One in Africa. She's scheduled to speak with reporters on that flight. Meanwhile, let's bring in CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman. He is traveling with the president. He's actually already in Angola. So, Willie, let me ask you, how did President Biden come to this decision?
Hey there, Vlad. Well, as you mentioned perfectly, President Biden has said time and time again that he will not pardon his son, Hunter Biden, for those felony convictions. And this is something that we've been asking about. And the White House had stood by that claim that President Biden wouldn't indeed do what he did late last night in pardoning his son for these criminal convictions. We know, of course, that the sentencing hearings were, in both cases, were coming about shortly. So perhaps that's why we're seeing the timing of this announcement from the president. But I do want to play some sound as to what we heard from the president earlier this year. Listen.
With regard to the question regarding the family, I'm extremely proud of my son, Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know, and I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Now, perhaps after former President Donald Trump won the election, President Biden didn't really see any political consequences to this. Of course, we know since he made those statements, he dropped out of the presidential race. Democrats lost the presidential election. So this is the decision that the president and likely the Biden family came to. But nonetheless, it is certainly a decision that Republicans and some Democrats have criticized, perhaps seeing it through the lens of misusing presidential power to pardon your own child. But President Biden, for his take, he essentially said that there was a miscarriage of justice here, that Hunter Biden was unfairly targeted by the justice system, and there was political maneuvering, if you will, in terms of putting that pressure on to bring about some of these things that happened during that case in terms of that plea deal falling apart for Hunter Biden, and President Biden saying that Americans should still believe in the justice system. But on the other side of things, though, Vlad, he's pardoning his own child, something that has not been done before in American history.
Yeah, Willie, certainly not perhaps a child of a president, but certainly family members have been pardoned, including former President Clinton's brother, Roger, and even former President Trump pardoned the father of his son-in-law, Charles Kushner, who he's now appointed, as you know, to be ambassador to France. But the question I think a lot of people have, both specifically on the left and, of course, on the right, is why the president would use the language that former President Donald Trump has used when talking about the Justice Department. And he seemed to be saying in so many words that the prosecution of his son was political. If he had just left it as, look, I'm a dad and I'm doing this for my son, any father or parent can understand that, perhaps people wouldn't have the same anger that they have over this move. What are you hearing from the White House about that specific language and why he chose to pardon his son?
Yeah, Vlad, we really aren't hearing much. The president had an opportunity to address members of the media when he left last night from Washington, D.C. He also had a stopover, a fuel stop, before he's set to arrive here in Angola. And the first statements that we'll likely see, or hear, I should say, we won't see them because the briefing is going to be via Zoom, essentially. It's going to be piped into the briefing room here in Angola. We're not going to see images from Air Force One. Is Karine Jean-Pierre, where we'll hear her response. But that's an interesting question, one that perhaps only the president, his staffers, his team could answer. For the most part, the White House has been quiet about this, putting out this statement late last night. We did, of course, see through that statement, as you mentioned, the president using the words, talking about how political he saw the system be against his son, Hunter Biden. and certainly questions surround this decision as to why he decided to make this decision now, why he didn't use the language that you talked about, saying that he was doing this for his son. But the president, in making this decision, perhaps doesn't see any political consequences to this since he's leaving office, and you have former President Donald Trump coming into office now. So Republicans will not only control the White House, but they'll also control the Senate, and they'll control the House as well. So President Biden making this decision and doing it while heading here to Angola and on the world stage.
All right, Willie James Inman for us this morning. Thank you, Willie. Appreciate it.